Hello and welcome back to Rock Tumbling Weekly. I'm Shannon and I love rocks and gemstones, and rock tumbling is my favorite hobby because it gives me an opportunity to play with all different sorts of rocks and gemstones, and it's really satisfying. And if you're new to the channel, then welcome. I hear through the forums and Facebook and comments on my YouTube channel that there are a lot of brand new rock tumblers out there. And so welcome to the community, to the rock tumbling community. And you'll find that it gets really addictive to collect rough rock and tumblers and just try your hand at a lot of different things. And so what you'll see today is a weekly video journal of all of my rock tumbling projects, and I have now 9 barrels running. So you'll get to see a wide variety of stones and how I tumble them and my techniques, and I hope you enjoy. Let's get started and let's start cracking open my barrels. Okay. Right off the bat, a strange occurrence. And sometime during the last week, the water in this barrel completely evaporated. There's no sign of leak. Everything, the lid and everything was put on tight, but there is 0 water in this. And that has happened to me more than once. It's really odd. I have no idea what's happening. I mean, we're in a really humid climate here, so it's not like stuff just dries up. But yeah, no water. It's all gone. So let me get this rinsed out because there doesn't seem to be, like, it kept tumbling. So there's no coarse grit left in here. This is the Petrified Wood, which went into coarse for its first run. And I don't feel any coarse grit in here at all. So let me get this rinsed off. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll get it back in the barrel. So here is the Petrified Wood after its first week in coarse, and you could see the wood grain in it now. And you can see that there's lots of slurry still left on it, and it was really, really difficult to clean the slurry off of it today. But since it's just going back in coarse, then I figured I wouldn't try too hard. But I wanted to give you a chance to look at the wood grain here that, is the significant feature of petrified wood. There's some more here. And we couldn't really tell this when we were looking at the rough last week. It was hard to see that it was actually wood-like, but it's starting to become pretty clear now. However, this does need to be shaped a lot more. So it's going back in its barrel with coarse and water. And hopefully that water won't evaporate again this time. We'll see. Maybe I'll have to do some midweek barrel checks. But I like the variance of colors here. We've got some reds, some browns, some light beiges, even some grays. And I think this is going to look really gorgeous. Let's get this back in the barrel. Here is the Bloodstone after its first week in coarse. And while it still needs a lot of shaping, you can definitely now see the color in it. The dark green, the reds, the yellows. There's even some white in Bloodstone, but now you could start to see the features that make them call it Bloodstone, which are these red speckles within the green that look like drops of blood. And yeah, I got a lot of shaping to do on some of these. These will probably be in course for quite a while. However, it's just a really gorgeous stone. And in the end, it shines up really nicely. So I'm looking forward to seeing the progress of these throughout the weeks. All right, let me get these back in the barrel with a little bit of ceramic media and some coarse grit, and we'll see them again next week. So this is the Smoky Quartz after a full week in medium grit, and it's looking really smooth. The surface is really smooth, and it's shaped super nicely. It's looking perfect for moving on to fine and extra fine. And this is the stage when things can go wrong. And you really have to make sure that you look through your entire batch to make sure that there's none at risk for chipping or breaking. Last week I took out several that looked like they could break or pieces could chip off. Because you get one that chips apart or cracks, and it's just going to ding around in your barrel and start chipping everything else up. So I am taking out this one because you can see there's a part there that looks like it could chip, and it could actually just break in half. So, whoops, sorry. I'll put that one in a bucket of other quartz that I'll throw in with another quartz, batch later on, and it can still tumble, but it shouldn't go on with our fine and extra fine grit here. So let me get these washed up really, really good and get them in with some fine grit. I've had some people ask me to do a little deeper dive into this Smoky Quartz and be a little bit more specific because they've been having trouble with the quartz family, like clear quartz, rose quartz, amethyst, citrine. And so this is a stage in which you really need to protect these stones. Once they move into fine and extra fine and polish, you need to make sure that there's a lot of cushion, a lot of ceramic media in your barrel to keep the stones from moving around a lot and bashing into each other. So you'll see here I have the media, the barrel's almost full because when this rolls, you don't want to hear any movement. Like the water and just the slight shifts of this media and the rocks will allow the fine grit to do their work against the surface of the Smoky Quartz without having them bang against each other and chip each other. So this is a stage where we need to be extra protective with our stones. Let the barrel roll, let the fine grit swirl around in amongst all the cracks and along the rocks, but we don't want the rocks to actually have a lot of motion in there. So let me get the fine grit in here and some water, and we'll get this rolling. Here is the Lake Superior Agate after a week in medium grit, and wow, it's just looking gorgeous. I am so in love with this stone, and it reminds me a lot of carnelian, especially pieces like this. But carnelian actually never shaped this well for me. That stone is very tough, but this is looking really, really gorgeous. I love the variation in colors. Oh, it just looks so nice. So before I move this on, I'll give it a wash cycle because you can see there's a little bit of slurry still hanging out in those pits there. And you really need to make sure that this is gone before you move it on to the finer stages. So this will go in for a wash cycle, and then I'll get it into a barrel with fine grit. Here is the Lavic Siding Jasper after a week and extra fine, and the stones are looking really nice. They're really gorgeous, and that surface is so smooth. It's really getting ready for that polish phase. It's going to be going into extra fine now, but yeah, this is a stone that's got a lot of like natural imperfections. So, I mean, there are still quote unquote flaws with all of these pieces, even though I think they're dang gorgeous. But anyway, I'm going to wash these off really good, make sure all the pits are cleaned, and then I'll get these in a barrel with extra fine grit. We'll see them again next week. Here is the tree agate after a full week in extra fine grit, and it's now ready to go into polish. Yay, we have something going into polish this week. But the surface, the parts that are smooth are really smooth. And of course I left some of the natural pitting in these, so those parts aren't smooth, but the rest of the stones feel like they'll take a really good polish. And of course you can't tell that by feel. I don't want to be deceptive. You know, I don't get to the point where I look at these under an eye loupe. However, many do and find it very useful. I just don't tend to have the time. But I think these are in a really good state for polish. So pretty. But, you know, I've got to put these through a couple of wash cycles because of these natural pits. And I want to make sure that every last bit of slurry is gone from this and from the ceramic media in the barrel. So, you know, wash your barrel with soap and a sponge, the lid, the barrel, the outer lid, and make sure to run your stones in water and like a chemical-free soap. Like that's why Dreft or Ivory soap is often used, or borax, and get these really, really clean. Then we'll get them in the barrel for polish. I hope you've been as excited as I am to see this week. And this is the large stone project. And here is my enormous piece of Imperial Jasper after 1 week in course. And you could see a lot of the stuff that was super rough on the edges has smoothed out. You can really see the pattern of the Imperial Jasper now. And it hasn't lost a lot of mass. It's still as big as my hand. And so a couple of lessons learned from tumbling really large rocks. I did not at any point feel like this got stuck in there when I checked it, so it moved around really nicely. And this is all the other stuff that's in the barrel with it. So I checked this big barrel after 2 days, and the course was already completely done. So these big barrels, they have an appetite, a massive appetite. And I got that from one of the viewer comments from the video last week. And it eats up grit like crazy, and it eats up small stone. And I quickly realized that I was not going to have enough like leftover jaspers to keep this thing full at all times. And filling it with ceramic media would be way too expensive. So I went to a local garden center and I bought these enormous bags of river pebble. And they were $5 a bag for an enormous bag. So if you're doing this, I highly recommend it. I'm pretty sure this is from the river pebble bag and probably this, but they're looking really nice. There were some pieces of jasper that I got when I went to Llano, Texas that I put in here, and I think this is one of the pieces because it's pretty distinctive. And I think, like, look at this. I don't know if this came in the river pebble box or what, but it's just this gorgeous piece of quartz right here. Yay. And this is what they call green worm jasper, which is a freebie that I got when I ordered some rock before, and I really like it. I've got some mookaite in here, some yellow jasper, some more bloodstone, Like this is Bloodstone. Some of this is probably river pebble, but nice looking. Some more of that green worm jasper. But yeah, it would just take way too much ceramic media to fill up this barrel. And ceramic media is actually pretty expensive. So know when you start a project like this that you're going to need a lot of grit and you're going to need some filler stone. So let me get this all back in the big barrel with its awesome large stone and top it off with more river pebble, and we'll check it again next week. Thank you so much for joining me again this week for Rock Tumbling Weekly. And you know, it's been a while since I've finished one of these sessions hot and sweaty, which means that summer is fast approaching in Texas, and there's now going to be a lot more sweat. And I don't know what I prefer. I don't know if I prefer cold and like numb fingers or just being really hot and sweaty at the end of a session. Don't know what I prefer. But spring is over now, and our warm days are really kicking into high gear. And although I know in some of the northern states it's still snowing, so I hope that the weather warms up for you too, so that if you're not running your barrels because of the cold weather, that you can get those running again. Because I'll tell you right now, in this lockdown period, this is really a hobby that is helping me keep my sanity, for sure. But thanks again for joining me. If you're new to rock tumbling, again, welcome to the community. And make sure to check out the Rock Tumbling Hobby Forum, and I'll put the link to that in the description below, so that if you have any questions, if you want to be inspired by other people's projects, then you have a source above and beyond me. You can always ask me questions whenever you want. You can ask them in the comments, you can email me questions, but the Rock Tumbling Hobby Forum is also a really good resource with a lot of experts there. So, you know, if you are new to the channel, or if you're an experienced rock tumbler and you'd like to see a wide variety of tumbled stones and how I do them, then make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single rock tumbling video. Thanks, and I'll see you again next week.